everyone, today we'll be rearranging this equation given to us in standard form, and we're going to factor it so that we can put into factored form. And at the same time we'll be finding the x-intercepts, or what is called the two roots of our equation. First, let's acknowledge the fact that we do know a few things, though not all of the variables are unknown. A is 1, B is 9, and 14 is C. What we do have to know, though, is x and y. We want to try and find out what those are. Now, in order to solve for x, we can actually plug in 0 for y, because we can pick a point on the parabola that is the x-intercept. And at that point, we know that y is 0, right? So let's go ahead and fill in 0 for our y. In this way, we'll be left with something still a little bit complex, but we'll be able to go on to the next step, which is finding two factors of the third term that add up to become the second term. 1 and 14 are factors of 14. 2 and 7 are also factors of 14. And we are going to pick out 2 and 7 because these two multiply to give 14 and they add up to give 9. So now that we know that 2 and 7 are those two special factors, we can maybe replace 9 with 2 and 7. But the only thing we've done is expanded this equation a little bit more so that it's easier for us to factor it in this next step that I'll show you. So this is why we did that, so that we can easily bring out two brackets and we can factor these. X times x equals x squared. X times 2 equals 2x. And then we could add 7 times x and 7 times 2, which is 14. Now both of these brackets are the same. They have the same value, which is why we can find a common factor between x and between 7. We can say that both x and 7 are being multiplied by x plus 2. At this point, I'm happy to say that this is already in the factored form. This a would be 1, and then we have those two brackets that multiply together to give us what y is. If we want to solve this just a little bit further, and we want to also know what these two unknown variables are, which are x's, then we can try and solve for those x values. So what we could do is apply the null factor law. The null factor law states that if two factors are being multiplied by each other and their product is 0, then at least one of those factors are going to be equal to 0 too. Either x plus 7 equals 0 or x plus 2 equals 0. So what I'm going to say is, for example, first solve for x plus 2 by stating that x plus 7 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides and we'll be left with x equals minus 2. So we're going to subtract minus 7 from both sides and we'll be left with x equals minus 7. So guys, now we have two values for x. X could either be minus 2, or it could either be minus 7. And this does make sense because if you were to imagine a parabola, we have two x-intercepts because we filled in y to be 0. We said that both equations are equal to 0. So since there are two x-intercepts in this parabola, it makes lots of sense that we get two different answers, minus 2 and minus 7. Then what we could do is we could say that a is 1. We fit in our x-intercepts or our roots of the equation, so which are minus 2 and minus 7, we fill them in, and then we simplify that again as x minus 2 and x minus 7 equals 0. So this is a simplified version of the factored form, and these are the two x-intercepts.